Hey guys, it's Libby and this is my wrap up for the month of June and my TBR for the month of July. This month I read 3 plays, 1 short story, 1 graphic novel, and 3 novels for a total of, I didn't do the math beforehand, 8 books. So I started off the month with something that I occasionally do, and that is a Shakespeare binge. Every couple of months I feel the need for the bard, and then I just binge read a bunch of Shakespeare plays in like one weekend. And this month I read 3 plays. They were Othello, Hamlet, and Twelfth Night. This is actually Macbeth, Hamlet, and Twelfth Night. I'm not gonna go find my copy of Othello though, so it just looks the same on the cover. So we'll start off with what we are pretending is Othello. This is a play about an interracial relationship between the Italian woman Desdemona and the Moorish, aka African man Othello. Of course, it's a tragedy, so everything goes poorly. The issue here is that a friend of Othello, Iago, thinks that his wife, Iago's wife, had an affair with Othello, so now he's going to mess up Othello's life by making Othello think that Desdemona cheated on Othello with a guy named Cassio. Confused yet? Good job. I give this play a 3 out of 5 stars. I hadn't read it in a really long time, and I remembered that it's not that good of a Shakespeare play. There isn't really anything particularly wrong with it. There's just no really beautiful language or really identifiable characters for me. And this is not a situation that I have to deal with because it doesn't really deal with the race issue that much. It's much more about the issues of jealousy. Although I would like to say that, so Iago says that he's not sure if his wife cheated on him with Othello, but he's just going to take revenge anyway. I actually think that Othello and Emilia did get it on. That's my own pet theory. Next up was Hamlet. It's Hamlet. Do I have to tell you about it? I gave this like 4.5 out of 5 stars because, you know, arguably the greatest play in the English language. What you gonna do? And I'm just gonna make this the pet theory video. So my pet theory for Hamlet is that Gertrude actually can see the ghost of her dead husband when he appears to Hamlet in her bedroom. And that is even worse than her son being insane because it means her husband is really there and can see everything that she's done. And I finished off my trio of Shakespeare plays with something a little bit lighter, Twelfth Night. This is a comedy of errors. It's not the comedy of errors, that's a different play. Basic standard Shakespeare tropes. Twins that get confused for each other, woman disguised as a man, man in love with a woman who doesn't return his love, and love square. So yeah. I gave this play a 4 out of 5 stars. There are definitely dull parts, the parts with Sir Toby and Sir Andrew and Mariah. Quite frankly, you can just skip all of those. But it does have what I'm pretty sure is my favorite scene in a play ever, and that's the one between Orsino and Viola, Cesario. It starts, "Once more, Cesario, get thee to yon same sovereign cruelty. Tell her my love, more noble than the world, prizes not quantity of dirty lands." This scene is so badass. Just in case you're not familiar with the play, I will contextualize this scene. Viola is a lady who has gotten shipwrecked in a foreign land, so she disguises herself as a boy and becomes the sort of valet, or more like messenger boy, to the Duke Orsino, who is in love with a lady Olivia, and Olivia will have none of this. And meanwhile, Viola is falling in love with Orsino herself, and so Orsino says, "Go back to Olivia one more time and tell her how much I love her," and Viola says, "Dude, she's gonna say no again. You gotta get over this." And he's like, "I do not have to take no for an answer." And she says, "What if there was a woman who loved you the way you love Olivia? You don't love her, so wouldn't she have to take no for an answer? Sometimes you just have to take no for an answer." And Orsino is like, "No, women cannot love with all of the love I feel because they are the pathetic and I am the sexist one. And then Viola does this whole big thing about how women's hearts are just as strong as men's, and it's awesome. So 4 to 5 stars. You should read this one, skipping the boring parts. Okay, so I just had to plug my camera back in to charge it up a bit more, so if the lighting has changed, that's why. The next book that I read in June was A Contract with God by Will Eisner. This is a collection of 4 short stories in graphic novel format. So while there are no characters that cross over from one story to another, they are all set in the same place. That's Dropsy Avenue in the Bronx. Oh crap, I forgot. I think it's actually Brooklyn. Somewhere in New York City during the 1930s, and it's about tenement life there. And they all sort of have a similar theme to them. It tends to involve terrible people who are trying to sort of game the system, and then through ironic means they end up getting the short end of the stick. And it's pretty like depressing. There's, you know, death, rape, sexual interactions with children, all of everyone's favorite things, but I still really enjoyed it. It's got a sort of fairy tale feel with the way that things wrap up. And the art is quite nice. I normally don't go in for the just black and white sketches. I normally want some grayscale, but these I did quite like. I gave this book a 4.5 out of 5 stars, and there are 2 other books that aren't exactly in the same series. I think it's kind of unclear, but they are also set in Dropsy Avenue, so I think I will pick those up as well. And then to round out the month, I finished the currently published works in the Newberry and Hobbs investigation series. I am going to give this series its own review, so I'll just go through it quickly. I had already read The Affinity Bridge earlier this year, maybe even last year, which is the first book in the series. And then I moved on to the Osiris Ritual, which I gave 3 out of 5 stars to. There were many good points, but there were a couple of bad points that I just couldn't give it the 4 stars for. Then there's the Immortality Engine, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars to. And the Executioner's Heart, which was awesome. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Very intense, very gripping. And I also read the short story What Lies Beneath, it takes place between Osiris Ritual and Immortality Engine. There are several short stories affiliated with this series. Some of them you can get on George Mann's website, but some of them are only in a book, and I hadn't been planning to get the book, but some things that happen in The Executioner's Heart I'm pretty sure occur in the short stories, and so I think you really do need to read it in order to fully appreciate what happens in the later novels. So those are the books that I read in June. Checking in on my yearly challenges, of course, I've already completed Read 5 Classics and Read Tess of the D'Urbervilles. I have read 54 out of the 100 books that I'm trying to read this year, which puts me 5 books ahead of schedule. And then on the Read the Entire Discworld series, I am definitely falling flat. You may have noticed that I did not start any Discworld novels this month, and I was already behind, so yikes. But I am not out of the game yet. I still do have time to catch up. I have another 46 books to go to get to my goal, and another 30 or so Discworld novels, so they certainly could end up being the books that I read to fulfill my 100 book challenge, but there's just so many other good books out there, guys. It's hard to just stick to one series. But looking forward into July, I think I have plenty of time for Discworld reading. I have actually already started Weird Sisters, which is the second book in the Witches sub-series. Of course, the Cramathon will be going on in July, and I will have a TBR video for that up soon, so that will be part of my July TBR. And then we've got the Booktubeathon starting at the very end of July, and I'm kind of just planning to read only Discworld books outside of those two readathons. So I'd like to be able to finish Weird Sisters and then move on to Witches Abroad and Lords and Ladies, possibly starting Masquerade. The Witches series are all rereads for me. This is, I think, the only series that I had read in its entirety before I started this crazy endeavor for 2015. So I think I can get through those a little bit faster. Unfortunately, I didn't like completely love them. The books I completely love come into play a little bit later, so I think my Discworld reading will pick up towards the end of the year. On the other hand, the later books are longer, so we shall see. Okay, I believe that is all I have for you for this video. I will see you soon.